Welcome everyone. This is the Alpha Strike. It's good to see you guys again. We're back with Magneto's Brotherhood of Metaclix. And Mikeneto here is going to give you an awesome lesson about Mystique.
That's right, guys. Thank you, Professor X. Today we're discussing new recruits, and that just happens to be Mystique. There's a whole lot of buzz about her on HC Realms, and I think that she's made the meta list.
Mystique? But she's like 60 points and really squishy, I've heard on her dial. Like, what makes her so good?
That's an excellent question. When I first saw her, I said 60 points, sure, excellent character, but it all comes down to pretty much the traits. So she starts off with Freedom Force, as we covered in our review videos. When she's given a movement action, after action is resolved, she can use Force Blast as a free action, which is handy because she can move and then knock somebody back. Then it comes down to her Shapeshifter trait. She can use Shape Change and begins the game with a Shapeshift token on her character card. While she has a Shapeshift token, she can use Ignore Character Bases for movement purposes, and opposing characters can only target her if they began the turn adjacent to her. When she targets an opposing character with an attack, remove all Shapeshift tokens, and when she succeeds with a Shape Change, and if she doesn't have one, place a Shapeshift token on her card. So the big thing that's happening here is that unless you start the turn adjacent to her, you cannot target her with anything. No Outwit, no Force Blast, you can't attack her, you can't range attack her unless you start the turn next to her. And because she ignores character bases, she just happens to start with Sidestep. So if you tried to base me, you can't lock me down with Plasticity because I ignore your character bases, and I can just sidestep away, making me virtually impossible to hit.
Wow, that seems really good. But what about if I have sidestep? Beginning of my turn, can I sidestep next to her and then attack her?
Unfortunately not. This has actually been officially ruled by WizKids that you have to begin the turn next to her. So there's no, during the beginning of my turn, I sidestep and poison. Well, you could sidestep and poison, but can't sidestep and then attack you. Call-ins can't be brought in next to her to attack her. And anything that comes off of a character base can't be summoned in and set next to her and attack her because it was not adjacent to her at the beginning of the turn. This effect is similar to Lex Luthor from the Trinity War set. A lot of the rulings that are happening for her are based off of the previous rulings for Lex Luthor.
Understood. Alright then.
So let's go into her overall strengths other than just the trait, which makes her what I believe to be, and a lot of other people believe, above and beyond meta. So, as we mentioned, she starts with Sidestep and Precision Strike, Willpower, and Leadership. So, I'm classifying this as free stuff, Iron Defense, and Who Watches the Watch List, because there's a lot of people up in arms right now, and the way this is going, I really think she's going to get the Banhammer. So, having Sidestep, being able to break away or ignore character bases for movement purposes. She also has the Brotherhood of Mutants team ability, which means she can take a movement action without it counting against your actions for the turn. And at the end of that movement action, she can use Force Blast as a free action. So we've got free Sidestep, free movements against your pool, and free Force Blast. Not to mention, she also starts with Leadership. So again, adding another action to my pool for free, and Willpower. So I'm taking the lovely pushing that I always love to do for just a mere 60 points. And then she goes down into combat reflexes. So if somebody does happen to stand next to her, she's going to be at a 17 combat reflexes for a 19 defense. And then close combat expert to be able to increase that damage or the attack. Still Precision Strike on second dial. 2 more clicks in, she goes to stealth with the combat reflexes and close combat expert, and then finishing off on a KO. So really, you're going to spend most of the game trying to base her, and once you do, she's got all the threats that she needs to take you out for being next to her, and then she can just run away afterward.
That seems really busted. Is there anything that she's not good against? Like, if I had figures that had certain powers, would I be able to ever damage her?
So let's go into the weaknesses. Overall, there's a few things that can get to her. Poison, as I mentioned earlier. If you can sidestep and poison her, poison doesn't target, so she's going to take damage. She doesn't have any damage reducers, so just clicking her for 1, she's got about 5-6 clicks. It's gonna take a little while to take her down, but you could do it. Energy Explosion. she makes the mistake of standing next to a friendly character, you can energy explode and deal her some damage that way as well. One thing that was mentioned in the forums was mind controlling an adjacent opposing character. So if she's standing next to a friend, you mind control them. They start at the turn next to her, and they can then attack her because they're temporarily on your team.
That sounds like a pretty good tactic.
And the overall, what really is the end-all be-all to this particular trait is Pulse Wave. It counters all traits and abilities and renders it completely useless. The big difficulty is going to be getting her out there by herself and hitting her hard enough that she's not going to come back to it.
Makes sense.
So those are the real weaknesses you're looking at with her. One of the things that I would recommend with all meta pieces is keep in mind your weaknesses and do what you can to overcome them.
Well then tell us, Mikeneto, what kind of tools could we use if we were going to play with Mystique to offset those weaknesses?
This brings us into the category of wonderful toys. So there's a lot of things out there right now for Arsenal. For the higher end meta play, a lot of people are going to lean directly onto Possessors. Currently, the ones that would be viable for her would be the Red Sun Brainiac and Eclipso from the Superman Wonder Woman set.
Yeah, both are from that set.
Not a set that I really got into, so I didn't remember the name. But those are two of the best possessors out there right now. There is Jocasta, but she's immediately disqualified because she has neither the armor nor the robot keyword. So you would not be able to possess her with Jocasta. Also, Proteus, not a recommendation from me. He is an equip, not really a possessor, to give her +1s. She doesn't really need them. I mean, she could need them, but not really.
The option of hurting herself doesn't seem good enough to put the pluses on there.
Right. Oh, and one other weakness that I forgot to cover is she does not ignore blocking or hindering terrain. So that's going to slow her down a little bit. Water, hindering terrain, she crosses that, she does have to stop. There's a little bit of talk on the forum right now of trying to use that to slow her down, but it really seems to be ineffective. Everybody just comes back to trying to pulse wave her and just make it happen that way. Just hit her once and be done with it. But another thing to add in, back to our wonderful toys, you could Hulkbuster armor, give her invulnerable, so you're looking at pretty much negating energy explosion and poison. Flight, Hulkbuster leg does flight and toughness.
Yep.
So now she does ignore hindering terrain for movement purposes and can fly over blocking if it's outdoor, as well as you get toughness, so you cancel poison and anything less than 2 volts for energy explosion. Again, bring us back to Pulse Wave.
Yeah.
Now keep in mind, equipment is limited to 1 per character for equipment. Anything else is immediately removed, so pick what you're trying to cover on your weakness as well, and then go with it. The other thing I would do to build her up is include a resource. The round table would be good. Maybe not specifically for her at 60 points, but 60 points leaves a lot of room to throw other people in. Round table at what, 40, 35?
35 total.
35 points, so you're looking at 95 for her and a round table. That gives you plenty of points to put in other people who can call in bigger people and just have her run your interference, block line of fire, push people around, get them in position, and overall, just be a pain in the butt.
For sure.
But that's my take on Mystique. You got anything to add there, Professor X?
You know, I worry, like, would a piece like this ever deter someone from wanting to finish a game? They get so frustrated with her that they may not want to play the match anymore and just kind of give up? Or do you think I should ignore her completely maybe and just go for the other points? What, your opinion on that kind of thing?
It could. If you're that frustrated with it, you probably should just walk away. But overall, I see her as a nuisance rather than a main attacker. Because as soon as they attack, she's going to lose that shapeshift token, and then all I've got to get past is shape change. And there's a few ways around that between Battle Fury or Pulse Wave, or just taking your chance on that D6. It could just be what you need to.
It's always a 1 in
take
3
her out.
chance, guys.
So legendary team was 3 Mystiques with 3 entities. Swept the WKO to my understanding. That would definitely be feared against, but go down swinging, do what you can. Points are points. You may not walk away with a W, but you may end up with a rematch later on.
Good to know your enemy.
So that's my take on Mystique. Clearly a meta level figure. Most likely one day in the very near future we'll see her on the watch list, getting the Banhammer, and it will also affect Lex Luthor as well. But until then, she is as meta as it gets. Alright guys, well I hope this information was helpful. Good luck on building your teams, and good luck facing down this figure if she comes across. I would always recommend not building to counter one specific figure, because you never know that you're going to run into it or not. But just build as strong as you can and hope for the best, and may the dice forever be in your favor.
And remember guys, strike first
And strike hard.